everybody should have the same information. If there's additional opportunities for this city, money from the federal government, I heard one delegation say, why, I even have a letter from our minister in the province suggesting we go for it. That sounds pretty positive to me, but this has all come after we followed the rules. So let's get the facts. What is Pan Am's commitment to the city of Brampton? Why were we pulled everything out? Cricket, wrestling, all of the things that we were, why did they walk away from Brampton? What is the commitment to Brampton? What does the provincial government have to put on the table? What's the federal government have to put on the table? We heard today that one of the ministers is saying there's maybe some extra money. Either this council was misled, or our beautiful residents have been misled, or maybe there's just some good new information. So I say let's call the question. And let's not forget that this council works together. We passed our 2012 budget unanimously. We have a 10-year capital plan of priorities in this city. And this new idea, as you can see, we've listened very carefully. Where does that fit with all the others? That's why I'm so anxious for strategic planning to start, so we can dream big dreams. We can be a nimble council. We can put one thing ahead of another, or whatever makes sense to all the people of Brampton, but we need the facts. And right now there seems to be different sets of facts. Facts that the staff at the city of Brampton were told, no to Powerade, no to anywhere. And it's in our report in February. Council reads the reports. This is a very diligent council. It said 8 Diamonds, Sesquicentennial Park, that's where we want to be. That's what the PAN TO 2015 said. And this council, I think, made a good decision. We didn't want a baseball entertainment complex way up there. We don't contemplate that, just like some would say the Powerade Center should have been on Queen Street. I prefer that it would have been, but it is where it is. So I think we're owed the facts. I think it's time to refer all of this to staff, to do the homework, to get the commitment from the federal government, get the commitment from the provincial government, find out how much money's really on the table from Pan Am TO 2015. We're owed nothing less. Every other municipality around here seems to have a clear sense of what is coming their way. And I think it's a big disappointment that Brampton, who went after the baseball in 2008 at the Powerade Center and other places, were turned down. And now today, Mr. Troop apparently has met with our residents and left them with the impression that if the city says you're okay with the land, all the money will flow, and we're okay with the Powerade Center. And frankly, the Rosalie Park proposal, which deals with flooding and all of the other issues, not to mention an accelerator in the downtown, is exciting. Is it the right sport? Is it the right configuration? Can we really put all those sports at the same field? I know we do. We just had the big cricket exhibition at the, I think it was at the Sky Dome just 2 weeks ago. But that's a $500 million stadium that inflates and deflates the baseball mound. I don't think we're talking that kind of money. But I want our staff to help us as council and come back with the facts that we're hearing presented with all sincerity. These gentlemen that have come forward today believe that this is an opportunity not to be missed. Believe that the provincial and federal governments have more money than was shown. Believe that we can make this happen. So I say, I'd like to move referral to staff. I've asked Councillor Plush if he'd second that motion, and I say, let's play ball. Councillor Miles.
Well, I couldn't have said it any better myself, Madam Mayor, so thank you, and I'll step back.
Councillor Callahan.
Madam Mayor, there's a couple of questions I'd like to ask. This stadium that's being looked at is obviously not domed. How do you play cricket in the wintertime? How do you, I'm sorry? Well, if you've got an open stadium, and what are we going to do with it while it's snowing or it's raining or whatever? Are we going to put it under wraps and come back when the weather's better? That's the first thing. I mean, I can't understand how you could possibly, in this climate anyway, develop something these days without some form of protection in terms of dealing with an issue like that.
Yep, Mr. Robertson, we're going to let the staff interact now, if you wouldn't mind, because
Okay.
I think our staff did evaluate trying to put the cricket, the kabaddi and ball, and multiple sports on one field. So
Okay.
is that what you're wanting staff to? But remember, they've just had this reopened, but if you have that information.
Well, just carrying on with that, we now have an application which is quite justifiably considered the success and the attraction of it, kabaddi, to enter into some sort of an arrangement with kabaddi, which for me it'll have to be an arrangement whereby we get a portion of the costs, overall costs. But quite apart from that, if you have the kabaddi scenario, you have the cricket scenario, where are we getting the money for this? I mean, somebody would have to actually give me a letter. Not that I don't believe what is being said by the proprietors, but if I'm going to commit my constituents to what may be a significant amount of cost here, I would want something definitely in place that if they tried to call us on it later on, we could say, hey, you agreed to it. Where's the money? Put it in the bank. I haven't seen that. I think it has significant merit in this regard that if you put in the way has been described by several of the people here, the way that you deal with the issue of the flood control. But again, has there been any approach to the TRCA or any commitment from the TRCA that they are prepared to even let us start, or let anybody who's going to do it start developing this facility on the promise that when it turns out at the end of the day, it will in fact have solved the flood problem. I mean, if we could solve the flood problem, I think everybody's a win-win in Brampton, because there's a lot of development sitting there waiting to be developed, which can't be developed because of that very issue. And I haven't, as far as I know, and I think Peter said this, the TRCA has not given its blessing, but I'd want a lot more than just a call to them and saying, well, we might consider it. That's very important to this whole project. If it doesn't come through, we're all swimming up creek without a paddle. Just too many ifs, and I don't know how long if we agree to it. I understand all we have to do is become the subservient sponsor of it, and it'll just go along swimmingly. Well, that's great, but what happens if somewhere along the line TRCA says no to the flood thing? Some other issue such as that arises, another issue arises as to this. Who's stuck with the start of this whole process and the unbelievable amount of money that we'd have to commit, perhaps by ourselves, back up the money for the public would have to back it up. And I can't do that. We've got so many things on our plate right now. We have a hospital where we have committed ourselves to a certain amount of money to the Peel Memorial Hospital. We've got at some point a group from the Kabaddi Association who want to come forward and talk to us about some use we use for the Powerade Center, or for this one if it's promoted. We've bought huge amounts of parkland in this city. We bought 200 acres over on the east side of Brampton. What is it, 240? I mean, there comes a point in time where, yes, we do have reserve funds, but I've said it and I'll say it time and time again. We cannot continue to do this. If we continue to do it, we won't have any reserve funds. We will, in fact, have to go into significant debt. And we've seen some of the problems in Toronto with that. We've seen some of the problems in Mississauga. So I'm from Missouri. Show me the money, and show me how it's going to be funded. But I like the idea. I think the idea is beautiful. I think John put it forward, John Catrasola, in a very passionate way, and he is a very passionate guy about the downtown Brampton. But I need something more than that. I mean, I need somebody who's going to say, here, I got a letter this morning from Linda Jeffrey. It was a marvelous letter. It applauded us and told us we should go on and follow through with this. I didn't read anything in there where she said that the provincial government is now going to give you the money to do it. With all due respect to Linda, it doesn't give me that confidence and comfort that I would have to go ahead with a project like this. We went off off onto I wasn't on the council when you did it, but you went on to the arrangement we had with the Powerade Center. And we all know what that meant. We all know what that entailed in terms of money to the taxpayers of this city. And we're only just getting out of the woods, or we're about to enter back into the woods. No, no. I'm not going to do that. You got to give me a lot more to demonstrate that this is a go. I like the concept. If you could wave a magic wand tomorrow morning, or you could come up with the dough and say, here it is, and here's a package of money, go ahead and do it. I'd be probably prepared to support it because it would at least be less risky, and it does solve a lot of the problems we have in terms of development downtown. But without that, I have to say the staff would have to come up with a report that would address all these issues. I'm not going to foreclose it till I see what staff has to say, but I think it's only fair to say what my concerns are. I love the downtown. I think all of us do. We don't want to create a situation making it worse by perhaps committing ourselves to this. So I can't support it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Moore.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. I am very much going to throw my support behind getting a staff report back.
Thank you.
Absolutely the right decision to do. We signaled a very strong desire back in 2008 to the Pan Ams that we wanted to be a host community.
Yes.
I've got a report here that was put together by Don Eastwood at the time that literally identifies every single parcel of land that we've got parkland or sports facilities on, and we attached a sport to it.
Yes.
And we identified to the Pan Am committees which ones we would very much like to host. And we did that because people who live in Brampton have so many reasons to feel proud about the community they live in, but one of the biggest reasons they have is our commitment to the sporting community. We turn every single blade of grass that we can find into sports and sports fields for our young people. We deserve to be so proud for going every extra mile to find that extra piece of land, whether even if it's on corporately owned properties, to put in a soccer pitch, to put in a baseball diamond, to put in whatever we can to keep our young people busy and to keep our adults active in this community. That's why we wanted to be a strong presence in the Pan Am Games. They gave to us and then they clawed it back and offered us a consolation prize. And I don't think that Brampton deserved to be treated that way. But what's interesting is that the other two communities, and I know one was Hamilton, I believe the other was Richmond Hill. Could be wrong on that. Somebody will correct me. But they were offered the consolation prizes as well when the Pan Am committee sort of regrouped and decided they were going to
All 17
approach the games.
All 17
Yeah,
GTA municipalities
just
were asked.
absolutely unfair when we are a growing city and had to plan our fields, plan our sesquicentennial parks, plan our next 100-acre piece of parkland to suddenly turn on a dime and expect that we were going to be happy with the consolation prize. But what's interesting on the baseball is that all three turned down that kind offer from Pan Am, and we are where we are today with having all the sports being awarded with the exception of that one. There's very few municipalities within the GTA that have got the amount of land available to meet the criteria set out for the baseball. And so perhaps that's one of the reasons why they're having some difficulty finding a host community for that. It is important that we sit down and we get and sit down with the Pan Am folks as a council, as representatives from this city, and say how much money is available, where's it coming from, whether it's the province, the feds, the TRCA, how much private money can come to the table. I'm not going to make a secret about the fact that I really like the downtown proposal. It solves a bigger problem. And the flood mitigation is something that we talk about. We've been talking about a lot about it for the past number of years. And we've talked about solving the problem in terms of a berm. A berm isn't going to attract international or national events to our city. This, in my view, is solving two problems. It's contributing to the revitalization of our downtown. It's solving a flood problem, which is only going to go huge measures in terms of attracting the investment that we need in the downtown, making that investment affordable for those people who are going to put their dollars to a project. So I think it was Peter Robertson said there's a sense of urgency. There is a sense of urgency. There's a sense of urgency for the health and the vitality of our downtown. And the flood control is the single biggest impediment to attracting the kind of investment and assessment to the downtown. I see my friend Cal McPherson sitting there, and I know how committed he is to tennis. What I see from this is that there is an enhancement to the tennis experience in the downtown. There is not. Okay. But that is something that when this is reviewed, we need to include all of our partners. We have been looking for, because of the flooding problem or potential for the downtown, looking for a new, better home for the tennis community. We need to do that. If solving the flooding problem allows us to look at a configuration that enhances the tennis experience, then we need to do that. The other comment I wanted to make was, and I've got so many notes. Oh, one is just to correct the public record. Ms. Peter Robertson, you made a comment about having not recognized a long-time supporter of this city, somebody who committed a great deal of her energy and enthusiasm, and that was Lorna Bissell. This council have, in fact, recognized Lorna's contribution to this city. It's called the Lorna Bissell Fountain. It's found in Garden Square. I was going to say Lorna Bissell Square, but Lorna Bissell Fountain, and it is spectacular. I'm not sure that your idea of putting the plaque on the chimes is a bad idea, so I'm sure staff will take that under advisement, but it is important. It was Councillor Gibson's initiative to bring to this council a way to recognize Lorna's dedication to this city, and I think the council did her great justice with that naming of the fountain. It was the right thing to do, so. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Hames, then Councillor Dillon, then Councillor Palache. Oh, you can all see it on the screen now. Councillor Hames.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm a little confused on what we're actually sending to staff. Are we sending
Both proposals.
both proposals?
Get the facts. Ask the
Including
questions.
residential?
No, the both stadium
We talked
proposals.
about residential on,
The Pan Am, I believe it's both Pan Am proposals that have been brought to us.
so it's two
for staff
baseball,
to-
it's two baseball fields we're looking at.
We're asking to refer the submission that was made here today to our staff.
Very
to get the
difficult for
facts.
us, Madam Mayor, as a council,
Yes, it is.
to make a decision when we've got two separate diamonds, baseball or baseball domes, whatever they're called, in the same city. It doesn't make any sense to me having two in one area. So before we go back to staff and say we want you to take a look at all of this, I think is a waste of their time. We as a city can't afford two of these stadiums. And, you know, going back, Brampton is probably one of the best places for sports. We recognize every sports. We make sure that they have the places to play on, and we concentrate more on youth. We do have a lot of adult parks as well, but we need to make sure that that the lands that we have still are used for those, are used for some of it sports for our younger crowd, and some of the larger ones do get to have their large major parks. Both you look at soccer, you look at softball, baseball. some of those do have those larger parks, larger infields. So I'm just really, I'm not comfortable about what we're sending to staff. So if we're referring it all to them, we cannot have we don't have the money to build 2 stadiums in Brampton today. We don't.
We don't have enough information, and both delegations have represented this can all be done without taxpayer money. They have investors, they have people coming forward, Cricket Canada has money, the
Well,
federals have
that's
money,
gonna be my
the
next
province has
question,
money.
Madam Mayor.
So let's have the staff sort that out, and the
That's
specifications.
gonna be my next question.
If I could just finish, the
Yep.
specifications for the Pan Am are 2 stadiums, one for softball and one for baseball. So if we're going to be engaged with the Pan Am, you have to meet their specifications. You're a 2-stadium town. In the same place was their specifications, but apparently there's some new information that we weren't provided, and I guess Richmond Hill wasn't provided because they had it in 2 locations, but Mr. Troop has met with some residents, and according to these residents, has indicated just get the town support and bring it in. We weren't even told they would negotiate with the private sector. It would have to be a host municipality. So there seems to be different things being said to different people, and I don't want this community to be duped into spending a dime, because our facilities we have are just fine. But maybe
So-
not fine enough for Pan Am, but there's another opportunity for a stadium in the downtown to deal with the other issues that we have to think in the long run, not just today. We need the information.
Well, I haven't finished speaking. The mayor jumped in and took
Sorry.
half my time, so, and we've listened to the delegations for over an hour. I'm sure we can have
2.
our say too. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
So one of my other questions is, we're being told it's not gonna cost the taxpayer anything. How do we know that unless the money is there up front before a shovel's put in the ground? How do we do that? So that's another question before we,
City manager's
Pardon?
taking notes. They have to be able to lock this stuff in.
yeah, well, it's fact. I mean, if, you know, it's great to say that the private sector is gonna pay for this, but in everything I've ever been involved in, we've always paid a share of something else. So like with the hospital, we had to pay our share. We didn't pay at all, but we had to pay some of all of those. So before we look at, saying, oh yeah, absolutely, we want this, we need to know what the cost is. And if it's for 2 stadiums, that's gonna be even more difficult for us. And as this city grows, and it is continuing to grow, we're gonna need all the green space. Pardon?
I was gonna say soccer. We need soccer too.
Well, yeah, we should. Soccer's the biggest sport in Canada for young people. Did you know that? You should. I tell you every time we talk about sports, but it is. But as the city grows, we'll need all the green space we can get. So I'm not interested, and I'm gonna let people know that right up front, that that putting in the Powerade Centre, put in other stuff other than sports in there is not good for me. I think we need the green space we have, and we're gonna need more and more fields as we grow. I mean, we're struggling now for the number of fields we have, but if I count all of these up that I've got in front of me now, we have an awful lot of fields for different sports. But we're gonna continue to need more because we're still a growing community. And so I really would like to find out if we're looking, I think we are, we've been shown 2 separate sites for two different areas, and both for baseball.
Okay,
So I'm I want to ask staff, like, what are you going to come back with? How are you going to come back with 2 sites with all that's in these? That's going to take quite a time for them to sort all of that out and see what the costs are going to be.
do you want
So-
staff to answer it between, or do you want to get us through the list and staff can tell us what they understand there? In case there's
Well,
more
I think it can
questions
go-
asked with
I-
other delegations. that's
Yeah,
all.
I think it's, staff are probably taking notes of what we're saying anyway.
Yep.
And certainly will be
Yep.
involved feverishly. So, I'll leave it. I didn't see Jamie writing a thing.
I'm writing it down.
You're writing it.
Yes.
So, I'll leave it at that, Madam Mayor, and, we'll see how, we need to do a lot more work before we can stand up and say, yes, this is great.
Thank you. Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question to Mr. Robertson.
Mr. Robertson, you have one of our councillors wants to ask you a question, so if you would just allow him that opportunity, Councillor Dillon?
Yeah, I can ask this question with respect. You served 40 years in the city of Brampton.
Yes, sir.
How this idea comes in your mind about the kabaddi, cricket, and baseball? Because you built all the east side of Ward 9 and 10. There's no sports field, no rec center, no playground. How this comes in your mind now?
Mr. Dillon, Mr. Cranch bought 100 acres of the Fitzpatrick farm for $22,000 an acre. And then Mattamy Homes sold you the other 100 acres for $500,000 an acre. So we started a program under Mr. Cranch in the east side of Brampton, but we also bought, Mr. Cranch bought, the property at Countryside Drive, 100 acres, and over at the Credit View, 100 acres. It was his dream and this council's dream, most of you were here, where we said, if we invest in land today at the farm rate, we won't be dealing with the developers at the developer's rate. And if you calculate how much Mr. Cranch saved this city, it was very close to $1 billion. So we put the foundations in place, Mr. Dillon, so that we could talk about your rec center today at Castlemore and the Gore Road. Without that land and without that savings of $1 billion, you'd be whistling Dixie.
I think that answers the question. Councillor Dillon?
No,
you
this
have-
is not my answer.
Good?
I'm asking, when you was mayor or
Yeah.
council member, why you guys didn't leave any field or grounds for the kids to play there? In the east
Well,
side of
I
Brampton.
just told you, we bought 500 acres. Isn't that good enough, Mr. Dillon?
Where is that 500 acres?
Well,
We
I'll
just
tell you
bought
one
last-
more time, because you're starting to irritate me.
No, I
One
don't-
is the 200 acres Catwood Gore Road and Countryside. That's 200 acres. There's 100 acres at Bramalea Road and Countryside. That's 300 acres. Then there's 200 acres at Credit View. That is some more. And then we bought the OPP lands, which should have been preserved and hopefully still will be. This is a dream. I want you, if you will, Mr. Dillon, to look at the website tonight called bramptoncitizens.org, and you'll see how these lands, and particularly the OPP lands, can be at no charge to the city of Brampton, a new university campus. Because when you bring the employees into City Hall, your new City Hall, you're gonna have the most magnificent campus. You'll be able to beat Barrie. Barrie's knocking at the door. They're saying, we want the next university.
Okay.
Brampton should be there.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson, and we do not want to irritate any member of the public.
Well, that's
who
good,
comes
but
here.
at
So
public
smile.
meetings,
Stay smiling.
this kind of stuff goes on when I'm not there. And then I have to listen to my neighbors
Oh,
and
I'm not-
defend myself when I'm
aware of
not
that,
there.
But you know, at the OPP lands, we have the most senior center
Oh,
now.
and that's
lawn
perfect for a
bowling, and
university,
We're very happy.
Madam Chair.
So,
It's perfect for a
Councillor Dillon,
university.
did you have another question,
Yeah,
Mr.
another question.
Robertson?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
I already said with respect. I'm not irritating.
Good, and I respect you as well. I might even vote for you the next time if you get some kind of organization, because you got 2 weeks or maybe a month to make this difficult decision, or the Pan Am guys are going to move on. There's an urgency. The Guardian won't tell you that. We are ranked 166 out of 190 communities. Look,
Okay.
guys, there's an urgency.
Mr. Robertson,
I'm now having my
I
council
will-
objecting, because we
Thank
gave
you.
everyone all the time they needed,
Okay.
and you had half an hour, and we wanted to give you.
Mr. Dillon, do you have
So, Mr.
another
Dillon,
question?
if you could
I
make
will definitely
comments.
support this project if you're gonna bring a solid letter that the private sector is supporting and they are giving you money. I don't want extra burden on the taxpayers.
And that's what I
Thank you,
think Mr.
Councillor
Cutrosola said, and I've said it too. And we've said, tomorrow we have a meeting with 3 pension funds at 4 o'clock. So we're trying to move along in the direction you want to go, Mr. Dillon.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Robertson. And now we have Councillor Palache.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor, and thanks to the presenters of the proposals. I'm not prepared to support 2 stadiums in Brampton, as one of the councillors mentioned, and I don't think that's what's before us on the table. I think it was one or the other. Both have merits. I think the Rosalie one has a better spin-off than the Powerade Center, in the sense that it gives us more opportunities for potential development. But I believe that it only answers part of that problem. I believe that I've been told that it answers the 350-year storm. The TRCA, I think, is the latest, is now they want the 1,000-year storm, which, by the time the 1,000-year storm comes, if it ever comes, that would basically flood out all of Brampton, and you'd have plenty of warning, and everybody in downtown would have to leave or stay in the 20th floor of their building and get ready to launch their canoes. And I certainly, I wanted to second the motion going forward to staff. And it is critical. The timing is absolutely critical if we are going to look at the possibility of getting Pan Am support and federal support. I can tell you, I've had lots of figures thrown at me. I've heard that the stadium, we would get, I think it was 56%. So we were talking before about 6 million. We confirmed with, I believe, Mr. Gozzo's office that 6 million right now, or 7 million, whatever it was, is on the table now. But then I also heard that if you have a bigger project, their position is that it would be 56%. So if it's a $40 million project or a $50 million project, then I believe the figure was thrown out at $21 million we would get from the federal government. And those are the answers really that I need to hear. I absolutely will not support any project that's taking $1 out of the taxpayers' pockets. I had calls this morning from residents asking me, is this another project that the taxpayers are going to pay for? And my commitment to them was absolutely not. I've been told in conversations that there is a lot of money out there in the private sector and they want to do this, and that's the only reason I was willing to listen to the phone calls that I got from the proponents on this project. So I think that's critical for staff to look at when they're doing this, critiquing these proposals, is it's got to be based on no taxpayers' dollars. I think the commitment has to be made from the people making the proposal here today. You heard both of them speak to that, saying that there is money out there and they would do it. Absolutely, that would be in writing, a commitment from them. I would like to see those opportunities put forward when staff are doing the report back to council, that they have those letters of commitment, that if it goes ahead, here are the funds that would be available. If you're not going to get that, then you know what? Let's stop it right now and end it, because the taxpayers aren't going to pay for this. I'll tell both delegations there's absolutely no way. We're not going to commit $1. I don't care if it's 2 million, 3 million, we're not committing it. It was sold to me on the basis that it's private sector funding that will pay for this. We will be the host community. You know what our commitment is? Our commitment is the land. And that absolutely there's a municipal commitment. We're not gonna sell Rosalie Park to who's ever gonna build it. So our value commitment is the land. But everything else on that land, whether you're excavating it, building a parking garage or under, has to be completely 100% private sector money. And that's my position, Madam Mayor. And I hope that that's the direction that staff are taking from me as one council member. That's the basis that I want you to critique this report on, and I hope that you accept that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The few things that I'd like to see staff address when they come back is our agreement with the Power Rate Center lands. We're on and off on who controls those lands each year, so I'd like to see how that would work out. And of course, what would happen to, I think, Peter, you mentioned about the rugby club last week. I think my family would kill me too if we did something against that rugby club, so that can come later. One of the beauties about the downtown site is that we also have a cluster of other parks and diamonds around that area. Fred Klein, Dugan, Chris Gibson all have diamonds around them that could enhance what might be done in that area. I also like staff to address the flooding issue. We had a report on the cost of what flooding would cost the city of Brampton to alleviate the problems there. We know, well, we have a good estimate anyway, what those flooding issues are gonna cost, what we'd, as a municipality, as money would have to put into it, so I'd like to hear that in it. And I think maybe we need to review the specifications with the Pan Am Games for the reasons why they need to have two stadiums. If that's the deal breaker in us doing it, it could kill the whole thing. I don't know, but I don't know Pan Am Games. I don't know why one stadium couldn't work for both sports. I know both sports are different, but I like the idea in the one where there's so many different type of uses that could go on in a stadium like that. It wouldn't be just about, somebody said to me, well, you can build a baseball stadium and it may fill up for Pan Am Games and afterwards baseball's not going to be there, but it's not just about baseball. There's lots of other things that can go on in that, but I'd like to know why the Pan Am Games seem to think that we need two, and if that's a condition, I think it's a deal breaker, but I'd like staff to review those things, particularly the flooding issue, because we're going to have to eventually put money in this municipality into the flooding issue. I don't know when that we're going to have to do that, but we are going to have to do that. That may be our contribution to it all, so, thank you.
Councillor Sprogieri?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question to Mr. Robertson, if I can.
I'm going to ask John a question.
Yeah, last week, Peter, you came to us and indicated that your associate, Mr. Haynes, was meeting with a group of investors as we met here, and I was just wondering if the meeting did take place, how the meeting went, and if the meeting you're planning to attend tomorrow is with the same group or a different group.
Yes, the meeting that Mr. Haynes was having did take place. And I reported today in a picture format from the Toronto Star as of the weekend. This is the group that he was meeting with. It wasn't the Canary Group, let me say that clearly. It was the money behind the Canary Group that were wanting to build the live, work kind of lifestyle community. But Bruce is working with 3 funding groups. That was just one group, and it's the one that has the most amount of money. They have a fund of about $200 million where they were willing to put up $10 million to whatever they think is a good investment in a live, work community. Now, my group tomorrow at 4 o'clock. I'm bringing Bruce to meet with 3 pension funds groups and an Italian, sorry, John, with a Indian investor who is a mega millionaire. So he has the ability to bring 3 pension funds together and put together investments. They're well known. I can't divulge who that is for obvious reasons that it's not fair to him. But we're going to say, here is our dream. It's a live-work community. If the city of Brampton did this and this and this, and what they have to do, with great respect, is make a stadium that has multi-purpose. Vicky, I think, asked the question, is the stadium going to be used in the wintertime? That is very, very hard to do. John is, I think, saying in the downtown we could put maybe a bubble on the stadium there to help the tennis people. And that's great there. But you can't likely put a bubble down in the Powerade Center unless it's some kind of a skating winter facility. So that's why we put together revenue from Kabaddi. If you just Google Kabaddi World Cup and how much money came out of that and pay-per-view at Copps Coliseum, then Google cricket. Cricket is unbelievable. Billions of dollars in India because of a terrorist concern.
Peter,
No,
excuse me, I'm not asking for a financial.
No, but it's important, John, to get an investor to,
Peter,
it has to be
I understand
multi-purpose.
that, and I just asked the question
Okay.
whether it was the same people you were meeting.
No,
you know,
Bruce
I-
has 3 and I have
Okay.
1.
So Madam Mayor, I don't have a problem in
Plus
asking staff
ACON is
to,
number 4.
asking staff to look at this, but frankly, I doubt very much investors, and I play the investment game. I invest and I research, and people will not invest when there is unless there's a fairly opportunity to make some money out of it. And unlike the Powerade Center, where at least we had a junior A hockey team to be in there, and we don't really, we know there's an interest from Cricket Canada to find a home, and that may be. But anyway, Mr. Chair, Madam Mayor, and Mr. Robertson, I will support staff looking at it. But I also feel that Pan Am may be desperate, that they can't find another municipality or city to host the baseball. And, we may not have to build 2 stadiums. We may be able to build just 1, and if there's use our existing facilities as a backup for the event. So. Well, let's see what comes out of this. No problem.
I'm sure there's going to be some very thorough phone calls and discussions over the next 48 hours because this is a bit urgent. Thank you, Mr. Robertson. Councillor Sprovieri, are you
Yeah,
done?
I'm
We've
done, yeah.
had poor Mr. Robertson coming back and forth and back and forth. Sorry about that, but it's okay. Don't.
You got new knees, wait till I get new hips, you'll never be able to catch up.
Peter, got you a long time ago. Take your seat. Councillor Miles.
Thank you.
I think this is a discussion with us. You can have a seat. It's
Yeah,
okay.
my question is actually to Commissioner Corbett, so thank you. I guess I'm for one are glad that we're having this discussion because I do think it's important that the public realize that we didn't slam the door on the Pan Am Games. In fact, we negotiated many years in good faith, and at the end of the day, found them to not be a willing partner. So if the opportunity is there for us to realize our vision and our dreams around some of this, that's a good thing. But I do think that people need to understand the reality of the situation. And my question is in regards to the floodplain and the potential of resolving some issues there. So I just have a couple of questions, Madam Mayor, that I want to clarify with Mr. Corbett. How long have we been dealing with the floodplain issue with the Conservation Authority?
Through you, Madam Mayor, since about 1989.
1989.
1989.
89, so we're talking 14 years. Okay.
24 years.
Oh, see, I can't even add.
1989.
89.
That was the first, through you, Madam Mayor, that was the first special policy area provision that the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Conservation Authority required us to put in the secondary plan regarding flood protection and restrictions on development. And then successively over the next 24 years, it got more stringent.
Okay, so we've been dealing with Conservation Authority for 24 years. With our latest discussions with them, what was the cost of remediation in order to allow development to occur?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there's two thresholds. One, what was spoken of a lot today is the flood control for the 1 in 350-year storm, which is the most minor remediation, and that would be establishing some sort of a berm or landscape feature or hard feature that would block flood flows and velocities into the downtown. And there's yet to be an agreement with the Conservation Authority what that could look like or what it would cost. In fact, what the Conservation Authority is telling us today is that even if you do come up with a scheme, they would still require all private developments in the downtown still to provide flood protection to the 1 in 350 storm. So it doesn't get you out of the same box that we're in today. The second threshold
So
is the regional storm.
Just to clarify, so even with the berming and the remediation that we've talked about with them, they still are going to require residential development to do the very same thing that they have to do today.
And also for service commercial developments as
And
well.
for service commercial.
give you-
And no, we haven't got a cost, but I remember a pricing of around 3 or 4 million
Oh,
for berming.
It'll be even more than that, to you,
Okay,
Madam
for
Mayor.
berming, just give me a sense. 'Cause
Okay, it's gonna be probably between $5 and $8 million, but again, with no sense whether that will not solve the flood protection problem. They still will require private development to install their own flood mitigation.
Okay.
Raised elevations, have sealable windows and doors, et cetera. The next threshold is the regional storm, and that requires widening and deepening of the channel to accommodate the 1,000-year storm, again, in terms of volumes and velocities. And our downtown drainage study pinpointed about $800 million. That's a conservative number because you're talking about land requirements plus the construction to divert the channel, widen it, deepen it, and as well there's bridge spans that would have to be totally reconstructed. So it's a very expensive proposition and not one that is easily funded by us, the region, or the province, or even the feds.
Okay, so all of the work that we've done with the Conservation Authority and with all of the consultants over the last 14 years, the fix that they proposed was around 800 million.
An order of magnitude cost, that's correct.
Okay, so the last conversation that I heard in regards to conservation authorities and the city of Brampton, notwithstand you asking them for a special policy in order for us to actually deal with development one-off. Have we got an answer on that? So if, for instance, this particular site was allowed to move forward, do we have an answer from conservation authorities about dealing with development on a one-off as per the policy that we were trying to get them to?
We have approval in principle, but not a final signature from the necessary ministers of natural resources and municipal affairs. But what that does is free up high-density residential development along the George Street corridor, but nowhere else.
But nowhere else, okay. So, I mean, if we're going to look at a staff report, and if this does come back that there's potential, I think, having a stadium in the downtown sounds pretty exciting, and also opens up lots of opportunities. But I mean, realistically, Conservation Authority has gotta be the first one that we talk to in regards to this, because it hasn't been the city holding up development in the downtown, and it certainly hasn't been the private sector, because they've come to us with potential developments. It has been the Conservation Authority. And the municipality, Councillor Pelleche, did try and hold their feet to the fire through the last budget process, and I don't know if that they're working any quicker, but we do have, we did get their attention for a very, but I don't know for how long we got their attention, but, so I did, I mean, Conservation Authority is critical in this scenario. If Pan Am say, yes, we like it, and if the private investors say, yes, we'll fund it, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I really think that's the key, Madam Mayor. I would like to, I know, you know, we in the last couple of years, members of council, this is the other thing we have to consider is that we keep diverting the attention of our staff from regular responsibilities to these things. This is going to take an awful lot of work for our staff in order to pull this information together really quickly. So we are going to have to be considerate of other requests of their time. So I just, you know, we all like to dream, and this is lovely. Ideas are cheap. But if we can make some of these things a reality, let's find out if it is a possibility or not, and come back and let the people who are before us know, and the rest of the public who are waiting in anticipation of this as well. So thank you.
And answer Councillor Miles's questions. All conservation authorities are under strict guidelines from the ministry. Brief history of a successful flood-proofing berm that was, and it was 24 years ago that it was installed in Churchville, and hopefully the TRCA will be as flexible as Credit Valley on exact location, because the berm at that point was to go along the edge of a road, and the residents said, we can't see over the berm to see into the park. All kinds of problems can happen in there. At night there could be all kinds of our kids could be in danger, this type of thing. At that time I said, I think it was one of the very first things I did as a councillor, said, how much would it cost to move the berm 10 feet out and put the road on top of the berm? They said, at that time, $4,000. I said, let's do it. And very quickly it was done, and the successful Churchville berm, now the road into Martin's Park runs on top of the berm, and I'm sure TRCA would have the same flexibility, or should be able to offer that same flexibility in order to accommodate. Saying that, it has not changed any of the requirements. Any of the residents in Churchville who were subject to flooding are still under those guidelines. The berm is there, and there hasn't been any flooding of the village, any serious flooding. We've had ice jams and things like that, but we haven't had any serious flooding since then. But the regulations, the berm does not change the fact that these homes are still in the floodplain, and I think probably the same thing will happen in downtown Brampton. It doesn't change the fact you can flood-proof all you want until the cows come home, but you can put it still will, according to ministry regulations, they're still in the floodplain. Very briefly, and I'm not going to get into, I'm waiting for staff report to come back on the report. My sentiments, as I stated at a committee meeting, are very much with the downtown proposal. I'm very much in favor of anything that can be done to add to that. I would just hope that the report takes into consideration transit links with Zoom Transit and this type of thing. It's close enough, obviously it shouldn't be that difficult, but if we're having a state-of-the-art facility in the downtown area, it obviously has to have transit links to it, and will eliminate the need for a whole lot of the parking problems that
we would have. So hopefully that will be considered. I'm sure staff will be taking that into consideration. Thank you.
Counselor Moore,
Just-
last speaker.
Just very briefly, Madam Mayor, I want to thank Councillor Miles for asking the Commissioner of Planning what the cost might be for mitigation, flood mitigation in the downtown. And I would highly recommend that when we approach our federal and provincial partners, we might want to throw that nearly $1 billion price tag around, because even if it was a 1/3 cost sharing between all of us, that's a huge chunk of change. We wouldn't have our chunk of change to go with that. But, you know, when you start talking, we'll supply the water. When you start talking nearly $1 billion to fix a problem in downtown Brampton, then you might want to talk to them about that, and how contributing to a project like this at a significantly less dollar value might look a little bit more attractive to get them to the table.
Motion then is to
Was.
refer the presentations today to staff to turn around ASAP, full analysis, and maybe the city manager could just summarize what it is you're coming back with. Do you want to hear that, or do you want to, we have confidence our city manager heard what we said. All in favor? Do we have a recorded vote, please, for history? It's up to you, but not if you're all going to add. Okay, city manager. Just on the spot like that's why
Yes,
that's why
I'm,
you're so appreciated.
I'm delighted. First and foremost, I think the issue through you, Madam Mayor, is to confirm the commitment from the TO 2015 Pan Am, Para-Pan Am organizers, provincial and federal government. So in fact, you can start to understand if, in fact, Pan Am is willing to make that investment in Brampton. Failing that, I expect that private investors would be less likely, unless they're able to use that provincial and federal money as a catalyst. There, of course, needs to be consideration of land sale, lease arrangements, and foregone revenue to the city, cost-sharing arrangements with respect to the Powerade facility, the overall cost of the project, facility ownership over the long term, any residual impacts, the demand for baseball and some of these other legacy projects and the specifications, the agreements that might be required in a memorandum of understanding, trying to truth out whether there are in fact actual investors, paying close attention to council's procurement bylaw, and making sure that our bid process would be open and transparent in terms of attracting investors and sponsors, traffic, transit implications, parking, operating impacts after the capital impacts might be there, the impact on sports clubs that might be displaced, including the tennis club to the folks in the gallery today. And last but not least, of course, is the TRCA, our very reluctant partner in this regard. So I think first and foremost, if we can ascertain the commitment from TO 2015, provincial and federal government, all else will fall from there.
Thank you very much then. If we get, and I'm sure I heard all of us say all of those points, didn't we? Councillor Gibson, oh, I'm sorry.
I know you were being distracted when I was talking, that's why you missed what I said. The specifications of the Pan Am Games.
I did say that, sir. I said the demand for baseball and the specifications and the legacy impacts. I did say that.
For two, why they need
Yes,
two, okay.
yes.
And the cluster of all the other, as it relates to the downtown with all the other baseball parks around it.
Yes,
I wanna
because
make sure
those have.
that's part of this.
Yes, those were part of the feasibility study that was undertaken and was part of the February 2012 report, so we'll be able to just bring that forward, because all of those other parks were offered to TO 2015 at that time, and including Dugan, Rosalie, Chinguacousy Park, Powerade, etc., and it was a funded feasibility study by TO 2015 that settled on Sesqui. So I'll
Okay.
bring that forward for you again, Councillor.
Okay, recorded vote, please.
Recorded vote's been requested. Members of council, all in favor of the referral motion, please stand to be counted. Showing in favor of the referral motion is Councillor Miles, Councillor Hames, Councillor Moore, Councillor Gibson, Councillor Paleshi, Mayor Fennel, Councillor Hutton, Councillor Sprovieri, Councillor Dillon, Councillor Callahan. Madam Mayor, the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Council. Just before we go to break, this is a very short, the item H1 I added today was PMH update, and a number of, it's just verbal, a number of residents have certainly contacted the office of the mayor, saying there's little activity currently going on at the Pilmora Hospital site. The equipment seems to not be there, the demolition seems to have stopped, so I would like to bring that to council's attention, that we certainly intend to write to the Premier and seek an update, a project update on exactly what is going on there, because the demolition should be ongoing and there's just a pile of rubble and most of the building still there. This is a critical need for the city of Brampton. We still need information on the $59 million we've yet to raise. We've talked a lot today about baseball and Pan Am games, but the number one need that is I'm hearing in the office of the mayor is the need for healthcare in the city of Brampton, the busiest emergency room, the longest wait times, and we need to know some certainty that this Peel Memorial Hospital, Peel Integrated Healthcare Campus is moving forward as planned, and perhaps the province or any one of our members would provide this council with a very firm printed up-to-date guideline. Demolition starts this date, completed this date. They're still, moving forward with the plan. We're asked about this. I'm sure every member of council is asked every single day about the progress at Peel Memorial Hospital. And I'm sure every member of council, certainly the office of the mayor, hears every day about the experiences in the wait times at the busiest emergency room in Canada. If there is a critical need to spend money, I'm going to the province first for hospital funding before anything else. I just want to make that very clear here today. That is, if the Premier says, well, we have so much for Brampton, you want us, where do you want it? I'm sure every member in this room would say the hospital, but apparently that money's been committed. Let's get that firm again in writing and the timeline, because there is no activity today at that site. And that's a concern that's been brought to my attention. So, just a verbal report. I committed as mayor to keep the Peel campus on our council agenda so that the residents of the city know that we are asking the questions on their behalf and seeking solutions. So I'm hoping to call the Premier for an update, and we'll see what we can report back to you at a following meeting. So I need a motion to receive the verbal report, perhaps moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Callahan. All those in favor? Thank you, that's carried. Would you like to continue into the agenda? You want to keep going? Okay, then we go to item J1 is planning. Councillor Paleshi.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Committee, you have before you the minutes of the planning meeting of May the 7th, and that's here for receipt. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in, sorry, pass that one back to you, Madam Mayor. I'll do them both first.
All those in favor of planning? Thank you, that's carried.
Okay, the next item is Planning, Design and Development Committee of May 14th. Any comments or questions on that planning meeting? Seeing none, that meeting is, I pass that back, and that is for approval, Madam Mayor.
All those in favor of the planning minutes? All those in favor? Thank you, that's carried.
Thank you. Committee of Council? Next item?
That's J3.
J3.
Councillor Paleshi, that's yours as well.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Committee, you have before you, or Council, you have before you the minutes of the Committee of Council meeting. It's here for approval.
Question?
Yeah, Mayor Fennel.
Thank you, Chairman Paleshi. I believe in this committee report we did have your series of recommendations with respect to the rule changes.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask council if you would consider the implementation of the 2/3 rule to occur once we have a lobby registrar in place. Because in the meantime,
I'm going to speak to that.
people could be, obviously, if you need 2/3 vote, you're going to lobby for your 2/3 2/3 vote, and I think the public has a right to know who's asking for council to move something onto the agenda that quickly. So I'm not disagreeing with it, Counselor, I just thought we spoke at the last meeting about what I feel is the need for a lobby registrar, and if that's forthcoming, could we implement this rule change? The rules have been like this, 100% unanimous support since 2004, so they've served us well for 8 years, and I don't think it's a rush if we can move forward with the lobby registrar in the next couple of months.
Well, okay, I have my name on the board, so move
Oh, I'll move the chair be heard.
Okay, thank you. I would prefer that be dealt, there's a lot more discussion, I believe, that has to go into this lobby registrar business. And I'll give you the reason why. My position anyways. I'm fine with having a lobby registrar, but there are different types. We could have senior management be part of it also, that anybody that speaks to senior management. Let me give you an example though, how that would be horrendous in the case of planning issues. I mean, I deal with developers every day on just the issue of planning issues. Commissioner Corbett deals with them probably 5 times as much as I do. So in the scenario that I kind of gathered from last week, let's take one developer for an example, Mattamy. They have a number of projects going on in the city of Brampton. So if there's 3 or 4 members, because you don't always talk to, in the case of Mattamy, Frank Dorson, I might talk to him, I might talk to Mike. There's 2 or 3 people because they're running those projects. So if I have to talk to them, say, in a period of 3 or 4 times in a week, every time in the scenario that you had mentioned, Madam Mayor, was that every time they talked to us, they would register and the subject would be recorded. I could spend 2 or 3 hours a day making notes of every single person that I've talked to, just in this one instance, and what we talked about. And I would find that very difficult. Now, for me, it being difficult, imagine what it would be for the Commissioner of Planning and that to deal with. So I have a problem with management, but really, if you want to be fully transparent, you don't just have your council members, you have your management as part of that also. So I do have difficulty in dealing with this lobbyist register. I do fundraising as many other councillors do here. We make calls. I fundraise for the hospital. I fundraise today for the heart and stroke issue. I've got the Art of Jazz that I'm dealing with, and I've got the Arts Council golf tournament. So I'm phoning a number of these people, asking them to contribute because they build in our city, and I think that they should donate to those items within our city. That be good corporate citizens. So that means every time I make a call, then I will have to register that I'm calling them, and I will have to give the subject. And quite frankly, find that very onerous in doing it. So there has to be some rules set up and some guidelines set up. I could just imagine, Madam Mayor, of the amount of people that you talk to or your assistants talk to, because if your assistants are talking to people the same as my assistant on my behalf, then they're going to have to register too, or you're going to have to look at that. So if you want to register every time you call somebody or you talk to somebody that would be doing business with the city, and you want to do that, then your assistant, you might as well hire another assistant, because I'm sure in your case, in your office, they would be all day long, all they would be doing is recording the number of people that are calling into the mayor's office and dealing with it. So I really think it has to be thought out. I think that I'm not interested in postponing this unanimous consent, unanimous, can't even say the word today, consent in dealing with that. We already, on the issues that I brought forward last week, have to go to a public meeting and have to come back. So we're already looking at a 2-month issue just dealing with that. And I can assure you that the other issue of lobby registration and what has to be done and entailed is going to take a lot longer than 2 months to do. So I am not prepared to, and I hope council will support, and I hope, Madam Mayor, you will see the logic of my reasons why I think that they have to be kept entirely separate and dealt with separately on the issue. So thank you for letting me speak to it.
And still in the chair.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
Councillor
so
Miles
thank
is up.
myself for allowing me to speak to
There
that.
you go.
Thank you,
Oh, I
thank you.
move the chair be heard.
Thank you for moving the chair, you heard, Councillor Miles.
Well, I just wasn't really quite sure the implications of what this lobby thing was, so I don't want to pass it because I don't understand what it means, the implications of it, so.
Well,
So I'm saying Senate, that's why it has to be dealt with separately.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so, I don't know what you want to do.
Well,
My
well-
position is that we
well,
deal with the issue that I put forward.
Chair Palashi, I've
Yeah.
listened to you, and
Yeah, sorry, okay.
council certainly agreed with the discussion last week to ask the city manager to prepare how a lobby registry would work, and there were other resolutions as they relate to some other elements of the opportunities in the new municipal act. That is in the minutes today. I support that. The question today simply was, did you want to have a period where there would be a gap between who is lobbying council to get on the agenda, and because now you'll lobby to get your votes. Because today, we changed the rules to say 2/3, you could come on a Wednesday if you've got 2/3 of council, and the staff won't know the subject coming on the agenda. Maybe some members of council won't know, because you only have to lobby up to 2/3, which means not every member of council will have any idea, walking into a Wednesday council meeting, what they be called for to debate and judge and vote on. And I think every member of council should have the right to say, listen, this is the first time I'm hearing this subject. I'd prefer it went to committee, and then there's a report. The rule changing simply saying, come to council, brand new material, here we go. I think we just did that for 3 hours today, brand new material, and what do? We referred it to staff. So it's very onerous as an elected person to have a brand new subject, very onerous on our staff to have a brand new subject put before us. You don't know the Friday before, the public doesn't know the Friday before, but on the Wednesday, with a 2/3 lobby, we could
Thank
be
you.
talking about
I have my Darth Vader hat.
anything. I don't even know what the rules are after we accept it on the agenda. Is the rule gonna be, is it automatic referral to staff report, no debate? Or is it whatever the subject is at the time? Maybe we'll vote on it, and maybe we won't. So I'm looking for a clarification too.
Okay, Luke.
I'll support your resolution. I just want some clarification.
Well, and I guess what I'm hearing is it a case if we want a lobby registrar for people that are gonna come and wanna come on the agenda at a council meeting, or are we talking a lobby registrar for any time throughout our business day-to-day that we're dealing with people? I mean, that's two issues. You'll notice today that group that came to council today was referred back to staff. I am absolutely not on the position, and there is a critical timing issue, and sometimes that comes forward, that there's a critical timing issue. And not just this, there's other items that we add that have critical timing, as I mentioned, and there's no discussion on it, no debate, it's just added to the agenda. And I guess what I'm saying is that even if they come to council, I'm not prepared to make a decision on something like, for example, today, I'll use as a prime example, without going back to staff and asking them for the expertise that we have in this building, and that to look at the opportunities that are available to us and cost it out. I mean, nobody I don't think, on this council in their right mind would say, when somebody comes forward, I got a $40 or $50 million project, and I'm gonna bring in some investors, I'm not telling you who they are, and I want you to approve it today. Like, well, sorry, okay, maybe one, but he's elderly and he needs a helmet sometimes, but, yeah, so, and you know what, and they might be, and so be it. My car's been scratched, why not flatten my tires? So that's why I'm just saying that a lot more thought needs to go into that. So absolutely, I want to know what the registry entails, what it is, and that type of thing, as you mentioned about lobbying. You know what, I can't foresee anybody, if somebody's going to come and lobby me, and that to come before council on an urgent matter, I'm been gonna make sure that I talk to the other council members so that everybody knows that it's coming forward. On the subject and the issue, you can't get all the information normally within a 10-minute period or a 5-minute delegation, and that to talk to you without going back to staff and referring it to staff. I'm just saying sometimes, now I'm repeating myself, sometimes they're critical and they need to come before council because of a timing issue. So, as I said again, I would prefer that what I'm asking about the unanimous consent, and then the other issue I even brought forward about the delegation of authority, I've asked that that be circulated to all council members and come back at a future committee of council. And that's so that we can discuss that, the delegation of authority. It's been since 2004, I think that, if that was, sorry. 2011. Oh, 2011 that was done, that we sold the ship, so, just kidding, to the city manager who's all of a sudden turned in 50 sheets of red, but. Yeah, it's a hot flash, all right. So anyways, that's my position, sorry. Okay, next speaker, Councillor Gibson.
I think they're two different issues, and we should discuss them as two different issues. One's fairly complicated, a lot of different scenarios can happen with it, and the other one's really just our priorities and how we want to do things. And you made a statement last week, Councillor Pelletier, that no one person should be able to stop a delegation from being here, and I completely agree with that, and I think we should deal with that issue today.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, and I too see them as two completely separate issues, and the concern, and actually we dealt with them as two separate motions. The difficulty with the motion on the lobbyist registry is that staff will be reporting back with a report with no guarantee that we'll be making a decision at that point. And given the timing of this, and I think, if I recall correctly, the city manager was targeting for June, which is just next month, but with the summer season upon us, and if we don't make a decision next month, then it'll be put over, and then the period of time between when we really want to make the change and we actually make the change is just going to be longer. So I think, I'm comfortable dealing with one and then the other one separately at the time that the staff report comes back.
Councillor Sprovieri.
Holy smokes, that was fast. That was down the bottom and you brought me right up.
Peter Robinson?
I'm moving right along.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I don't have a problem with dealing with, so are we just asking, at this point, are we debating the issue that, or are we just, what are we doing at this point, Mr. Chairman?
I wanted to take my name off the list, so just, are we debating it at this time? If it's part of the committee of council minutes, and if you want to debate the issue, absolutely, it's here to discuss.
Yeah, and when I read I left last week before this came up, so the first thing came to my mind is how do other municipalities handle this issue? And I think it would be wise to get that information, whether the unanimous vote is constant across the board, and or are we trying to break the trend, or is it variable? And I think it's important for us to have that information before we make a decision. So.
Yeah, and in talking to the clerk about this issue and the city manager, it's in different municipalities, it's treated a different way. But if you certainly want him to report back on that, it's as mentioned, it's all over the board. So sure. I just felt that, you know what, a simple 2/3 majority, the same as we deal with everything else in the procedures, that would be the simplest to do. And that's what I was suggesting.
Mr. Chairman, my feeling that, I don't have a problem with 2/3 majority. I think there's enough safety for, to protect against, unwanted situations. And sometimes, if, the way it is now, it could, having one person on council block an attempt may not be healthy. So I like to get the information from the clerk to see what other municipalities do, and if we're the only municipality in a province that have a unanimous rule, then it doesn't make sense to do that.
No, I didn't want to need a report. Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Fennell, you back on to speak?
Well, I think today's vote implements the change. Is that right? Or is it subject to public meeting and then comes back?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the recommendation from committee last week is to convene the public meeting
Right.
On May 30th, which is next week, with the intent of actually amending the procedure bylaw,
Right.
which is the recommendation of committee.
Just one
And
follow-up question, if I could.
Yep.
So if the bylaw's amended, when a person comes to the clerk's counter, today it's clear, they're referred to committee. So once the rule changes, does the clerk say, well, you can come any Wednesday you like? Or are they still to be referred to committee? And the clerk is supposed to gauge
I'm
if
gonna
there's an
speak as mover.
urgency, and then you could be directed to come straight to council or put on the agenda automatically if you submitted your name. And if it's determined not to be urgent, then this council will send it to the following Wednesday for a staff report and full discussion. How is the clerk supposed to interpret somebody coming with what they feel is urgent on Wednesday morning?
Okay. Well, as the mover of the motion, I don't believe that the normal procedure changes, and I'm not
Okay.
suggesting that. That normally the situation is if they come and they want to speak at council, if it's a new item, then they're encouraged to come to committee for a more general discussion, and then that would be back to staff for a report. It would just be in situations where it is time critical. The clerk can very easily say that is the recommendation that we put forward to you. You have the right, if you wish, to come before council, but you would have to notify the council members actually before the meeting. And then it would be put to the council that you need a 2/3 majority to add it at that time, which at that time, but you would still basically, I'm not going to put words in Peter's mouth, but my position would be is that you can still expect it's going to be going back to staff for a report. So, and then it comes to the next week. So it's only in emergency situations. I don't see a big, all of a sudden influx of people wanting to come before council and speak to issues because they're time critical. So that's my position, and I'm sorry, but I believe that it's a pretty simple issue, and I'm not prepared to, I'm asking that you vote on it today. I'm not prepared to go back unless Peter wants to say that, no, nobody does it in any other municipality, but I believe in our discussion, we did say that it was handled in different ways, and that in the municipalities. So I'm asking that we make the decision today, and then it goes to a public meeting. Thank you.
Okay, I'm good. Let's vote.
No, I don't want to hear. So
We're ready
I'm
to
at,
vote.
okay, so I'm asking
Councillor
for,
Plushy, I support
oh,
you.
you've asked a recorded vote?
I support you. No, I didn't ask for a recorded
Oh,
vote.
okay,
No,
so
I
I'm
said I
asking that,
support you.
okay, so there's a vote put
Oh,
forward
I'm sorry, did you want to
by
report?
myself.
Okay. It's just the committee minutes are now being approved, Councillor.
Right,
I think,
so
yeah.
it's moved by, who wants to move them? Oh, sorry. Well, it's moved by myself and Councillor Hutton. So if somebody, I'm in the chair if somebody else wants, okay,
All those in favor
Yeah.
of the minutes as printed? Thank you, that's carried.
thank you.
The next item on the agenda, public question period. If there's anyone who wants to ask a question, gratefully, there isn't today. Moving from public question period, the bylaws, Mr. Hutton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dillon that bylaws 125, 2012 to 142-2012 before council at its regular meeting of May 23rd, 2012 be given the required number of readings taken by the mayor, the city clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto.
All those in favor of the bylaws as read? Thank you. The in-camera minutes have been moved. That means we will not be going in camera, council, to bring to your attention all those in favor of the in-camera minutes. Thank you, that's carried. The confirming bylaw is moved by Councillor Hutton and Councillor Dillon. All those in favor? Thank you, that's carried. The motion to adjourn by Councillor Hames and Councillor Miles. All those in favor? Thank you, that's carried. We're adjourned. The next meeting is Wednesday, June 6th, and Wednesday, June 20, and then August 8th.